You have probably found yourself in a moment of intense frustration, like waiting for days for a meeting with someone who simply doesn't show up, or even the routine frustrations of everyday life, like your phone battery dying during an important call, or missing the bus by a fraction of a second. It feels like everything is going wrong, and it's happening only to you. We've all been there, wrapped up in this intense whirlwind of thoughts. But don't just put a band-aid on it and pretend everything's okay. Let's get rid of this frustration from your life once and for all today. Let's explore 7 unwavering historical practices to not only manage but send frustration far away from the control of our lives. If you're new here, I have a little challenge for you. Hit that subscribe button and activate the notification bell to up your mental game and become a rock in this ocean of challenges. Now, let's get started. Focus on your circle of control. Man does not worry so much about real problems, but rather about his imagined anxieties about real problems, Epictetus. First, let's talk about control, or, more specifically, the illusion of it. You can't control the traffic that makes you late or the weather that ruins a weekend outing. However, you can control your reaction to it, your emotions, your mindset. This is not some magic spell cast over your life, it's a real mindset shift. For example, when you bump your car, you can either rage and get as angry as possible or use those extra minutes to take a deep breath, meditate, and realize that it's no longer in your control. Your car is already scratched, and no amount of frustration will change that. In today's fast-paced world, there's intense pressure to achieve more, be more, and do more. We're constantly bombarded with messages that equate our worth with our productivity. But life isn't a checklist where everything unfolds predictably. It's a series of moments, some planned and others unexpected, that together create the richness of our experiences. So, the next time you find yourself in a whirlwind of irritation because something didn't go as planned, pause and ask yourself, is this within my control? There's no point in tearing your hair out over a scratched car when you could be thankful that you're not hurt. Embrace this first historical principle, and it can be liberating, like finally deleting all the unused apps on your phone. You didn't realize how much space they were taking up until they were gone. Free yourself from the burden of the uncontrollable, and you'll find more room to enrich your life with what truly matters. Imagine a world where everyone practiced just this principle. There would be no road rage, no temper flares in the supermarket line, no people fighting over trivial things. Now, that's a world worth fighting for. Perspective and the view from above. Don't seek that everything happens as you wish, but rather wish that everything happens as it actually will, Epictetus. You know how in movies, the camera often zooms out to show an aerial view of everything? It's easy to forget that our personal world isn't the entire universe and that the world doesn't revolve around our problems. Sometimes, we need that aerial view to anchor ourselves, to see that the issues we face are just a small part of the bigger picture. Feeling frustrated because the Wi-Fi went out? Imagine seeing it from space, where even giant cities appear as mere dots on a rather insignificant globe. This change in perspective can cut through frustration like a hot knife through butter. I'm not saying your problems are trivial or unimportant. What I'm saying is that sometimes, amplifying these problems in our minds is what gives them power over us. We turn molehills into mountains and wonder why we struggle to climb them. Practicing the view from above is not an escape route from your problems. You can't simply ignore a flat tire or a tight deadline. But you can change the lens through which you view their relative importance in the broader scope of life. Suddenly, they become easier to deal with because zooming out shrinks your problems but magnifies your appreciation for what you have. Imagine a cluttered room. From up close, it looks chaotic, but from a distance, you see the room's layout clearly. The same applies to your life. The closer you are to your problems, the more distorted they appear. So, the next time life throws a wrench in the gears, take a moment to zoom out. You might discover that the obstacle you're facing isn't as massive as it seemed, freeing you to confront it head-on instead of being paralyzed by it. Use the power of now. True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence on the future, Seneca. We're always in a rush, always running to finish school, get a job, fall in love, tick all those imaginary boxes that society tells us will complete us. In this endless race, it's easy to stumble over the present moment. However, the Stoics argue in favor of pausing, of focusing on the now. In our modern digital age, practicing presence may seem more elusive than ever. Notifications bombard us, news feeds distract us, and worries about tomorrow often overshadow the joys of today. But here's the thing, frustration often comes from pulling forward or backward. We're frustrated because things aren't happening as quickly as we'd like, or we're upset about something that happened in the past. By centering on the present moment, you reclaim your time. It's like stopping a leak on a sinking ship. You're no longer letting your energy drain into moments that are beyond your reach, the unchangeable past or the unpredictable future. Don't get me wrong, planning is essential, and learning from past mistakes is valuable. But letting them consume a present moment is like borrowing troubles from a future that hasn't happened yet or accumulating regrets from a past that's already gone. So, how can you be more present? Start by tuning out external noise, turning off non-urgent notifications, making time for doing nothing, practicing mindfulness, or simply immersing yourself deeply in what you're doing. Don't just eat, savor. Don't just hear, listen. Don't just touch, feel. Being in the present is also a remedy for frustration because it narrows your focus to what can be acted upon now. This simplifies, clarifies, and brings a sense of peace while harnessing the power of now. You minimize space and time for frustration. You can't control everything, but you can control your focus. And when that focus is on the present moment, you'll find that many of your frustrations simply dissolve into the ether. Manage your desires. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality, Seneca. Let's talk about desire, a close cousin of frustration. You desire an outcome, and when it doesn't materialize, you get frustrated, simple as that. The Stoics had an antidote, the dichotomy of desires. In Stoicism, desires are categorized into two types, natural and empty. Natural desires include things like food, shelter, and well-being. Empty desires consist of fame, excessive wealth, and other superfluous desires. The key is to satisfy natural desires to the extent they contribute to your well-being, but be cautious with empty desires. It's human nature to want more money, more likes, more things. But have you noticed how pursuing these things often leaves you feeling more drained than satisfied, like running on a treadmill, chasing a destination always just out of reach? The Stoic solution isn't to renounce all desires, that's neither practical nor beneficial. The goal is to manage your desires, weighing them on a scale of true importance. Before getting frustrated about not getting what you desire, question the value of that desire in the first place. You'll often find that recalibrating your desires naturally reduces your frustration levels. Think about it. If you're not chasing real or superficial goals, there's less room for disappointments, and by extension, less room for frustration. But how do you identify which desires are worth pursuing? A good rule of thumb is to ask whether satisfying that desire genuinely contributes to your well-being and personal growth. If it's more about social validation or short-term gratification, you might want to reconsider. Understanding the dichotomy of desire is like a software update for your mind. It simplifies your goals, sharpens your focus, and enhances your overall performance. The cleaner your goal planning, the less room there is for frustration to settle in. Once you organize them, you'll find it much easier to navigate life with a sense of purpose rather than being driven by the volatile winds of empty desires. Practice negative visualization. He roams boldly who has anticipated his fortune, Seneca. Negative visualization isn't about being pessimistic, it's about preparing your mind for potential setbacks so you can face them with grace and resilience. Imagine your day going terribly wrong. Your coffee spills, your computer crashes, you miss your train. Now, take a deep breath. None of this has actually happened yet. But mentally, you're prepared. This exercise does two incredible things. First, It shields you from the initial shock of unfortunate events, so when the Wi-Fi inevitably goes out 5 minutes before your big presentation, you don't panic, you adapt because you've been there in your mind. Second, negative visualization amplifies your gratitude when things are going well. You start appreciating the small things like coffee not spilling, dependable technology, or punctual trains because you recognize they aren't guaranteed. Your joy in life multiplies because you understand how easily things could shift to the opposite. The goal isn't to dwell on the negative, but to touch on it enough to dilute its power to disturb you. Don't use this as an excuse to always expect the worst. That's not its purpose. It's about making peace with uncertainty, fortifying yourself against life's curveballs. Remember, it's not the situation but your perception of it that causes stress and frustration. And how you perceive setbacks changes when you've already encountered them in your mind. So, try this the next time you're having breakfast. Take a few minutes to visualize potential setbacks, and then let them go. You'll find that when life throws those curveballs, you'll catch them with the grace of an experienced player, not the panic of a first-timer. Love your fate. Fate leads the willing and drags along the reluctant. Seneca. If you've been following along, this next historical principle may resonate deeply with you. Love your fate, or amor fati. It's more than just accepting what happens to you. It's embracing it, loving it, knowing that every experience is a disguised lesson. You lost your job? Instead of lamenting, consider it an opportunity for a career change or to learn a new skill. Your relationship ended? As hard as it may be, it could be the universe's way of saying there's something better out there for you. This doesn't mean you shouldn't feel emotions like sadness or disappointment. These are natural human responses. The Stoic approach is to feel them, acknowledge them, but then change the script. Ask yourself, how can this enrich my life? It's about turning what many consider bad into a new kind of good. Furthermore, amor fati liberates you from guilt and the draining tendency to blame. There's no room for why me when your default setting is challenge me. So, the next time you encounter an obstacle, don't just endure it, embrace it. Love your fate, and your fate will begin to love you back. It's not about ignoring life's challenges, but finding a way to dance in the rain instead of waiting for the storm to pass. Memento mori, remember your mortality. Let us prepare our minds as if we come to the very end of life. Let's postpone nothing. Let's balance the books every day. Seneca. You might find this next historical principle a bit morbid, but bear with me. Memento mori is a Latin phrase that translates to remember that you will die, and its intention is far from bleak. It's a lived reminder to live authentically and compassionately, focusing on what truly matters because our time is finite. The concept of death brings clarity to life's ambiguities, annoyances, and frustrations. Suddenly, the things that irritate you seem trivial in the face of life's impermanence. Are you going to waste your precious moments agonizing over a rude comment or a minor setback? The Stoics argue that remembering our mortality helps cut through the trivialities of life and focuses us on what genuinely matters. But there's another layer to this. Knowing that our time is limited adds a sense of urgency that compels us to act, to change, to grow, to resolve, not tomorrow, but today. You no longer have the luxury of postponing things that matter because life doesn't offer unlimited tries. So, how can you incorporate memento mori into your life without it becoming grim? Use it as a daily reminder. When you're frustrated or stuck, ask yourself, in the grand scheme of my finite life, how much does this moment really matter? Often, you'll find that what's distressing isn't worth sacrificing your peace of mind for. The essence of memento mori isn't to generate fear but inspiration and gratitude. It's a tool to separate the gold from the sand, to distinguish what truly matters from the noise that constantly fills our lives. By remembering life's impermanence, you not only reduce frustration but enrich your existence. Your days become more meaningful, your actions more deliberate, and your time more valued. It's the final reality check that keeps you grounded while urging you to live fully. So, here we are, 7 historical practices designed to confront frustration head-on. Implement them one step at a time or mix and match according to what resonates with you. The key is to start. After all, a 100-kilometer journey begins with a single step, and in your case, it begins with eliminating frustration. Isn't it empowering to know that, no matter how daunting it may seem, frustration can be tamed? You don't need to be its victim, you can be its master. By applying these historical teachings, you equip yourself with more than just knowledge, you gain wisdom, a precious commodity in our fast-paced world. If these insights resonated with you, if you felt that spark of understanding or a flash of inspiration, don't keep them to yourself. Challenge yourself to fully engage with this community, share your own insights, and become part of this global mental movement toward a richer and more fulfilled life. The journey isn't just yours, it belongs to all of us. Keep practicing, keep exploring, and keep becoming the best version of yourself. I'm rooting for you. And remember, as Seneca said, life is much simpler than we make it out to be, and with that simplicity, we can release frustration and embrace a more fulfilling and enriched life. Until next time, Shalom.